Welcome back, viewers. We're excited to have someone today, and that's none other than R. Anand. Mr. R. Anand is an author. He's a principal consultant, board level advisor, adjunct professor, and a researcher with over 2 decades of experience. He's based out of Noida presently, and welcome, Anand sir. Welcome to this show.
Welcome, Naga. Thanks for having me today.
Delighted to have you. It's indeed a pleasure to have you address our viewers and share your thoughts and ideas around today's topic. Sir, how would you probably, let me start with something around an area that many senior leaders in the profession today are trying to get their hands around. And that's the topic of business partnering while being a senior HR leader. It goes way beyond just being a HR generalist or a business partner for a unit or a SBU, though I'm sure lessons can be gleaned from what you say and applied at those levels as well. But I think to begin with, how does a senior HR leader do business partnering? Over to you.
Right. So I think it's a very valuable topic, and I would want to say that business partnering can be done at all levels. And at senior levels, there are some additions that happen. So what we say is applicable across all levels at the spirit level, right? So a business partner is one who is able to make his or her partner succeed. I think that's a simple definition. If your business head, the partner that you have in business succeeds, then you have succeeded. And with that simple definition, how do we go about doing this job? And the way we do this job is to figure out what challenges are there out there, and what skills and resources that the leader brings to the table, and how do you create an increasing match between the two. And that is really the job of a business partner. So you need to understand the business, you need to understand the person and the strengths, and you need to synergize the two to be able to bring the best for the individual in the situation. That is how I would describe as the quintessential essence of business partnering.
Wonderful. That's a great start, making my partner successful. That's wonderful. Are there any templates, heuristics, frameworks that either you've used or developed in your own mind? Any mental models that have helped you become successful at this?
Certainly. So one, I think, is one part of the puzzle is to understand the business. And how do you understand the business really is, I think the test of understanding is if you are able to explain it to a 7-year-old without jargons and everything and so on, then you know that you have really understood. So how does the business make money? How does the business create value? Who are its customers? Right? And understanding that in a very, very visceral way is very, very important. It's not enough if you understand it intellectually. You also need to understand it very emotionally in the body. So that's one kind of thing that one would look for. That's one part of the map. And the second part of the map is how are we trying to compete in this business, right? What are we trying to do together, right? What kind of skills and competencies do we need to succeed? So trying to get the internal organizational machinery to be able to play the game very well. I think that's the second part of the puzzle. And the third is to see what kind of risks and opportunities the two sides of the coin present themselves to us at this moment. So, for example, considering what challenge we have to overcome and what do we have, there could be some opportunities. And on the same side, considering the challenges and the skills and competencies we have, there could be risks. So, how do you really go after the opportunities and mitigate the risks is something that is what I call the mental model. At a level above, you also look at how your competitors are playing this game and how do you play relatively better to be able to win. I think that's the what I would call as a probably a little bit advanced stage. First is to understand what are the challenges, what do we have, and what are the risks and opportunities that come when the twain are interacting with each other.
Wonderful. And how does one actually go about figuring out all this?
All right. So I think, as I said, the best test is if you can explain to someone who is not in your profession and say, what do we really do? And HR people are generally good at explaining, but they are not able to quantify or characterize it. So they would say, that is good, this is bad, that much they know, right? A lot of HR professionals know. But they don't know to what extent something is a important element, and to what extent it is a less important element. So doing some sort of relative quantification of things is a very important understanding that I think one should have. So that's one this thing. So quantify, try and explain it simply, then try and quantify the relative importance of the different variables. And thirdly, I would say that try and look at how the variables interact with each other. For example, in everything there is a trade-off, right? For example, you take risk in some this thing, you get access to certain opportunities, or you pursue certain opportunities, you are vulnerable to certain risks, correct? So doing nothing will be no opportunity, no risk. So anything that you do from that comfort zone will have a risk opportunity trade-off, right? Or different trade-offs will be there. To be able to understand after quantification how these two or three or multiple variables trade off against each other is very important. So simple example is, if you reduce the price of a product, more will sell, right? But then your profitability will go down, your revenue will increase. Now that's a revenue profit trade-off in a way, right? So similarly, there are lots of trade-offs like that that present themselves. After quantification, to be able to understand what those trade-offs are and explain it again in a very simple language is a very important, I would say, approach that I have used personally, and that has often been very helpful to me.
Thank you, sir. Influencing stakeholders is a very, very big part of being a business partner. And I'm sure there are tools that you use, right? Like concept papers and so on. I'm sure our viewers would love to hear a little more on that. How have you, gone about influencing stakeholders? Are there tools? Are there techniques? Without, of course, being manipulative.
Right. So I think very very important question. I would say at the fundamental of all this, we started by saying that the quintessential essence of business partnering or HR partnering for business is to make your partner succeed. Now, are we able to establish such a relationship with your partner? Right. So that's the first thing, and it is revealed by the fact that whether your business head or your partner actually confides in you the vulnerabilities and worries that they have. So that's a proof that that is happening quite correctly. And that is, I think, one of the key milestones that I would look for is your partner really confiding in you. And secondly, when you get confided into like that, and because you are in HR and you really make a lot of policies and decisions about people, you hold a lot of power, right? And how do you deal with that power is very important. Unless the people above you and your business head, right, who is also probably a person above you, feel that this person can be trusted with power, right, that they won't misuse it. That I think is extremely critical. And there should be a rock solid character boundary that we should have. And everyone in the world must understand that when you hire this person, or when you deploy this person, or when you give a job to this person, this is exactly what you will get, that there won't be any boundary stepping and so on. That I have learned is a very, very useful thing to have. I think it is probably far more important, this trust building and character showcasing, even higher than the intellectual skills that you can bring into the table. Because when they see that, I think leaders will teach you, they will take you under their wings and teach you a lot of things, pardon your mistakes, and decide to give you another chance. I think that's a very important insurance that we all need to build before we start the partnering job. So first, build trust, make sure that everybody feels that, this person is here to make me successful, and come what may, this person will not cross certain boundaries. You can give this person a lot of power, and everybody will be comfortable giving power to this individual to decide on our behalf, because he or she won't misuse it. I think that I found is again a very, very important foundation on which all the other things can be built. And after that, of course, is to be able to give a point of view on the risks and opportunities as you see it, on the strengths and weaknesses as you see it, and then trying to have a very honest, transparent conversation with the individuals. And when we have conversation with individuals, one often can feel judged. So a partner is one who should be like a fly in the wall when they are interacting, right? So nobody should feel their presence, their stare, their judgmental stare, and so on. And people should feel that they are talking to a mirror or to themselves. And if we can give that feeling to a business partner, I think that is probably a clear milestone that one can look forward to and say, yes, I think we are getting there in the group.
Wonderful. Thank you. I've always learned that buildings in India, when they are being built, when the foundation is being laid, they kind of bury a few diamonds and a few gems there. I think you provided those gems for anyone who's trying to build a foundation around HR business partnering. Thank you so much. Quickly jumping to probably something that is a little contextual here. How would a business partner in COVID times measure himself or herself and put a self score on how well they are doing?
Yeah, I think another very relevant question. So, so what happens even in our own personal life, Naga, when you see that we think that these things are possible, and then we suddenly realize we hit our head and say, "Oh, because of COVID, we can't do that." Right? And when in our own personal life, we get surprised by what we took for granted, and now we are unable to do. Imagine the kind of surprises that will happen in the business. So businesses are today built around very complex supply chains, lot of interactions, lot of dependencies, because over a period of time, businesses have found that unless you locate the best place to get something done, and there can be several places, you won't be profitable. So in that process, businesses have actually become very distributed today. And anything that is distributed and have to come together to be able to be successful is what is primarily getting challenged in COVID times because of the lockdowns and so on. Now, the first way, if I were a HR partner or a business HR partner in COVID times, I'll measure is, do I have some sort of a map of the processes of my business, right? And can I say that that is going to get disrupted? This is going to get disrupted. This is going to get disrupted unless something else is done. So unless I have a map like that myself in a very handy fashion, I won't be able to help and guide the business. And once having had the map, then you can say, okay, that process is going to get disturbed. And without that process, can we deliver what we want to deliver? Answer is no. Is there an alternative? Answer is no. Is there a substitute? Perhaps there is a substitute. So to be able to sort of picture at once what will happen if this disruption happens. Now, one of the other things that I look for that is easier said than done, but it is more difficult if you have to project that into the future. So, for example, as we speak, India has 40,000 COVID cases, right, confirmed cases, and let us say at the doubling rate that we have, let us say in a month from now, and God forbid that should not happen. Let us say it becomes 150,000 COVID cases. Let us say that's what happens. Now, what is the additional level of disruption that your business will suffer? Now, can you project that into the future? Can you talk to your business head and say, okay, who are the resources that we must make sure? I'm sure laptops are going to expire, licenses are going to expire, relevant software is not loaded. Can we do something proactive like that so that the people who work from home have the tools to continue to work from home? So who are the most critical people? And what is the most critical activity? What must be secured come what may? I think creating a map like that and being able to discuss with a point of view with your business head, I think will be greatly appreciated by business heads today. And the other thing I would say is, the HR is a very close-knit profession. So we do have networks and people are trying various things. And it is not a good idea to reinvent the wheel, especially now. So can we find out what is a smart thing somebody has done? Can we make a 10-point mail which says the smart things other companies have done in COVID and ideas for our own application, for our consideration? Can we send an email like that to our business heads? And will it make them look at and say, oh, okay, that's a problem we have. Potentially a solution may exist here. Or can you examine this problem? So the moment business heads give you such problems during these times, saying help you project into the future and secure what I am doing, then I think we have arrived. That's again another touchstone or measure of success I would have during the current time. So have a process map, find out what the vulnerabilities are, project what additional vulnerabilities could happen, find out what others are doing, where the smart ideas are, and put them up on the table for consideration.
Wow, that was fast, quick, and effective. Thank you. Just for, on behalf of our viewers, probably, I'll slip in a quick request here that we look forward to having you in future sessions around areas like org effectiveness and behavioral economics, but that's for the future. As of now, I request you to, share a few thoughts or share a few stories around the books that you've written. In fact, if you have a book handy, we would love to see the book as well.
Sure. So, Naga, so for several years, as I questioned myself, I thought I probably like to be a multidimensional person. And that is why I'm dabbling as a teacher, as a consultant, as an advisor. and so on and so forth, right? And as a writer or an author. So there are always the motivation has been to use your expertise that you have been able to build thanks to society to find a way to give back. So there are two areas that I chose for myself, and the latest one is a book that I wrote on happiness and well-being. So I noticed a lot of people during their middle years trying to find and search for the meaning that they are trying to seek in their life, and it somehow seems that they are not having a fulfilling life. I tried to find out how to really systematically peer into it, how to use the principles of psychology to be able to provide some thought processes, some solaces, some solutions, some strategies to such individuals. And I found that several urban professionals, whether they are employed or self-employed, are going through these questions to themselves. So can life be more fulfilling? And why is it not more fulfilling today? What is it that is sort of bothering me? So that's something that I researched quite a lot and wrote, and this is the book, and it was published by Sage and was extremely well received. I had an eminent cardiologist review it, a professor of happiness and well-being at Harvard review it, and several corporate executives, senior executives review it, and they all encouraged and said that this is very useful and practical. So that's one of the things that I wrote, which is about happiness and well-being. It is published all over the world, both India and internationally. The second thing that also bothered me, and it's a big problem in India, is the problem of employability or job readiness. Now there are lots of things one can do to be job ready. As an industry person, you can go and teach in academics, bring your experience. But I thought there must be a more scalable model. So I thought, what does job readiness mean to the IT and IT industries? And so through McGraw-Hill, this book was brought out in 2016. And this book is about how one can become job ready for the IT and IT enabled industry. And it talks about multiple areas, from hunting for a job, trying to analyze your own competence relative to the ask, why do companies select the way they do, what are they really looking for, how to adjust in the first 2 years of the job. So it is a guide for students, a companion to students to become job ready industry professionals. So these are two areas that I have researched on and tried to bring it out as some sort of a value addition to the larger society.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. There's really a continuum, how to get into the industry and how to stay happy once you're there. Wonderful interacting with you. And if you have a message to sign off with, over to you. Otherwise, we are done.
Okay, so we are living in tough times. Firstly, be self-compassionate to yourself. And secondly, be compassionate to all the other people who are looking at different obstacles. But nevertheless, don't lose hope. We have been through such times before, and we will emerge as a much stronger species at the end of it, as a wiser species as well. I hope so.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anand sir. Thank you. It was indeed a pleasure having you on board today.
Thank you. Thank you, Naga.